Well, hello again. It's good to see you. I hope your first session went well. Just as a reminder, I'm Deb Katie Melzer. I'm the Vice President for Student Development. And again, we could not be more happy that you are here and that your students have chosen Loyola. Today, we have a great panel who will introduce themselves in just a moment. But today, in this session, we're going to talk about life outside of the classroom, some of the services that we offer, and more importantly, the approach that we take with your students. We really want to help build students with agency over the course of the next 4 years so that they graduate, of course, and they don't return home living with you. So, yes, moms are clapping. But to get us started, we'd like to get to know you all a little bit. We did a team builder with your students during the opening session, so we thought we'd do a little one here with you. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to have you introduce yourself, tell us about your student, and like 5 questions you might have that we can answer for you. Everyone good? Ready to go? I'm just kidding. That would take the whole time. You were ready, though. I love it. But by show of hands, I love this group already. By show of hands, how many of you are sending your first student to college? Okay, quite a few of you. It's going to be okay, I promise. How about your second? Okay. Yay. Third? Yes. Fourth? Fifth? Wow. Any more? Sixth? Fifth? Is it fifth and final? Yes. Congratulations. She'll be doing a session later today on retirement planning. Yes, right? Right. What retirement? Exactly. Yesterday we got to 7, and it wasn't his last. I was like, oh, God love you. One time I did a session, and the family was launching their 10th student. Yeah, sounds like my grandmother. My grandmother had 11 children. I don't know how she did it. And the dad came up to me afterwards and said, "Can I just leave her here?" I'm like, "No, unfortunately, you got to take her home for the summer." And then he said, "Okay, well, when I drop her off, her mom and I are going to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Do not call us. Here's her sister's number." So whether you're sending your first or your 4th or 10th or anywhere in between, we know this is an important moment in your lives, in your students' lives, and in your families' lives. And part of the reason why I do that is because there's expertise in this room. So for those of you that are sending your second or more, tell our first-year parents, right? It's going to be okay, right? Everyone's thriving. Everyone's doing okay. Good. So with that, I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. Like I said, today we're going to cover 5 topics at the philosophical sort of high-level balcony view of what we're trying to accomplish with your students. And then today, after you meet your student for the family prayer, there is a services fair downstairs in McGuire Hall at 3:30 that all of these services will be available to you. So if you have individual questions or you want to learn more, that's the place where you'll do that. Okay? So with that, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Calderon, and I oversee student development as the Associate Vice President.
Good afternoon. Tiffany Parker Kennard, Assistant Vice President, Dean of Students.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Parkover. I'm the Assistant VP for Student Wellbeing. So glad you're here today.
Good afternoon. I'm Donna Woodruff, Associate Vice President and Director of Athletics. We're glad you're here.
Time to go back to the gym. All right, so I have the pleasure of talking to you about ways that your student can get involved. And I want to start a little bit with a math equation. Equation is a generous term, but I almost failed calculus my freshman year, so you'll have to bear with me. All right, so for us here at Loyola, we do not want your student to sit in their room, right? We want them to be out and about as part of the community. Everything we know from the national research and the national landscape tells us that students who are involved in extracurricular activities at the collegiate level have better GPAs, are retained better, and also have better career outcomes. And it's pretty clear why, right? When you are working with a group of peers on a passion project, you are going to develop social emotional skills that are helpful in the workplace. You're going to develop leadership skills, and you're also going to develop resilience. So we really want your student to be involved outside of the classroom. All right, so the ways that they can do that is we have over 140 registered student organizations. If your student cannot find one organization in here, congratulations, and we will help them create it, right? So they are not limited by what they see. We are always changing our student organizations based on student popularity, what comes in and out, and also student interest. We have many students who are involved in the Student Government Association, so those are students who are elected by their peers who are advocating to improve the student experience. Everything from free parking for students to better French fries in the cafeteria and everything in between. We also have a robust commuter student association, a ton of people who do community service. So this morning when Deb asked your students to stand if they had done community service, quite a few stood up. This truly is a campus of men and women for others, and that plays out in our very vibrant community center for community service and justice. Whew, that's a mouthful. CCSJ, we usually just go by the acronym. We also have a very robust outdoor adventure experience program. So if your student is one who likes to go camping, go rock wall climbing, all of that kind of stuff, we have a lot of opportunities for them to get involved there. Certainly esports is very popular as part of our extracurricular experiences, mission trips, and we also have a very robust club and rec sports organization as well. So we've got 6 club sports, and we've got over 25 rec sports. So really students who are interested in maintaining some part of their physical well-being. We also have a ton of campus traditions. It's actually one of my favorite things about Loyola is that we really mark time here by the campus traditions, right? So we'll start with move-in weekend. That's our first tradition for first-year students. We will proceed all the way to lessons and carols at the Christmas season, which is this beautiful Christmas service, I guess is the best way to describe it. We stream it for families who can't be with us. In the spring, we do a big concert, Loyola-Palooza. They have yet to get my favorite band, which is Fleetwood Mac, but I keep trying. I never know who it is. I'm always like, can you say that again? And then I have to Google who it is on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. My daughter does, but not me. So we really are a very rich campus of traditions. And the reason for that is we want to bring our students together, really the whole campus community together, and really mark time and celebrate at a variety of points throughout the year. I also oversee something called the Thrive Center. This is our hub for student success. So one of the things that we are committed to as an institution is moving beyond transactional academic experiences, right? So you come to me and I tell you take these 4 classes and you can graduate. And we're moving into transformational academic experiences for students. And what I mean by that is your student can come and have a conversation with a success coach or a staff member and say, this is what I'm interested in, right? And the first step is not to say, well, you should then be a lawyer or a doctor. It's to say, well, let's talk about how that might play out in your academic career. Let's talk about all the different classes that might give you some exposure to things that you could be interested in, and let's start to build one upon top of the other so that we can create a very meaningful 4, 5, 6 year journey for you. And that's what we mean about student success, right? It's not necessarily grades. It's really about embracing your passions, translating that into an academic experience, and then taking it beyond the classroom from graduation. Within the Thrive Center, we also have cultural and identity-based programming, so anything from religious celebrations to pride days, et cetera. We have affinity spaces for students with intersectional identities. And then we also have first-year student programs, so things like the new student orientation that you're a part of today, Evergreens, and Messina. All right, so way back when I was in college, there was no streaming. Streaming was not a thing. You had to show up at like 9 o'clock for Seinfeld. commercials, all the good stuff, right? And my favorite character was Newman because he was like slightly villainous. And so what I want you to take away from this, right, is that knowledge is power, right? And while Newman was saying, you know, I control the knowledge or the information because I'm controlling the mail, we do not gatekeep information from parents. That is not a thing here at Loyola. We want you to be just as informed as your student. You, so far, have been their primary champion. We cannot take your place even in the first few days. And so we need to work in tandem together to make sure that your student is understanding everything that there is to know and that you are as well, so that you can help them navigate in the moments that we cannot help them navigate. So for students, that is the bridge. This is our one-stop shop to know everything there is to know about what is happening on campus. If your student comes to you and says, there is nothing to do, they are lying. Straight to your beautiful face. It's like when my teenage daughter tells me there's no food in the house. I don't actually think that's true. Students will be, are already enrolled in the bridge, and this is their opportunity to see everything that is happening from start to finish on any given day at Loyola. It is a treasure trove of information about ways to get involved, things to do, people to meet, and places to go. For families, I would highly encourage you to start paying attention to Campus ESP. So this is our family and parent portal. This is where we are going to not only tell you all the things that are going on campus, we're also going to give you some tips and tricks for milestones throughout the year, right? So as midterms approach, we want you to know ways that you can calm your student from afar and make sure they're concentrating on both their physical and mental well-being during exams. We want you to know when graduation is coming up so that you have every last piece of information that your student may or may not be feeding you about where to park and where to go and how to get their cap and gown. This is where we're going to get you as included into the Loyola community as we can, because we know that you're our partner in our student success. I do want to tell you a few important dates. So we will kick off your students' first tradition with move-in on August 28th and Fall Welcome Weekend. This is a really big opportunity for us to welcome new first-year students to campus. Like the song says, you don't have to go home, but you cannot stay here. You will be departing at 3 p.m. Your student will be fully immersed in their first year at Loyola, right? It is super important that they really are not thinking about, oh, mom and dad are in a hotel and I might need to meet up with them for dinner, right? But rather they're thinking about, I need to go to dinner with my roommate, and I need to ask this person across the hall where I buy my books, and I got to connect with this person because we have Intro to Philosophy on Monday, and I'm a little nervous about what the classroom is, right? Those are the most important things that they should be thinking about in that weekend. Initium Week is like a supercharged week plus of events for your student. It really showcases all the best that the campus has to offer, and I would highly recommend that your student and you check out all the different events, because it's going to be the opportunity for your student to get an entryway into clubs, orgs, events, traditions, spaces, you name it. It's the highlight is the Student Activities Fair on September 8th. Again, if they don't see one of the clubs there that matches what they're interested in, we will work with them to help them create it. And lastly, I'd like to invite you back for Family Weekend, September 26th to the 28th. This is about 5 weeks after they move in, so this is a fantastic opportunity for you to check in on them. Make sure they've maybe washed their sheets once. Twice would be even better. See how they're doing. Find out where their classes are. Make sure that they've been eating fruits and vegetables, maybe getting a little bit of sleep on the weekends, things like that. We will have a ton of things for you to do so that you understand how much the community values our family partners. And then we'll also provide plenty of time for you to have time with your student as well. And next up is Donna for Campus Spirit.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. So again, I'm Donna, and I'm the Director of Athletics, and my opportunity here is really just to speak about Campus Spirit and kind of to welcome all of you into this Loyola community. And in my particular case, one of the ways to do that is through athletics, and that is for your students as well, right? My part of my job is to make sure that we get the Loyola brand out there, right? I'm always wearing the L. I'm happy to see a few people already supporting or sporting Loyola gear. It's not so much that I want you to buy a whole lot in the bookstore, though that would be great. It's that I want you to be proud about where your student goes to school and that you too are a part of this community. You know, sometimes on TV you'll see, let's say it's a sporting event, and let's say if we're fortunate enough to do something well, where you all will be able to say, or somebody will say to you, oh, I saw Loyola, that's where your kid goes to school, right? You know, and they were on TV for something else. I aspire that when you are very proud about your student and where they go to school, that when you say, yes, they go to Loyola, that the person next to you doesn't go, oh, in Chicago, right? Like, it happens, and it's a great school or what have you, but obviously I want as much as possible for the first thought to be that, you know, no, Loyola in Baltimore, right? Yeah. So we continue to work on that, and we try to bring the students into this larger community, and one of the ways is through some of our athletic events. So this is a picture of Iggy, our mascot, down at Ridley Athletic Complex, which is our stadium for soccer and lacrosse. Obviously, a lot of people having fun, and I will tell you, on ESPN, when we play some lacrosse games, they will mention that Loyola has the best student section in the country. That's not me, you know, with hyperbole. That is what they say. And that's because everybody is a part of it and just cheering for Loyola, not just the specific people that are on the field. So these are some of our events. You know, whether it's indoor or whether it's outdoor, everybody's having a great time. Sometimes we give free stuff away. Quite honestly, students you will find, they will come home and you'll be like, where did you get that? And it's always because we give out a lot of free stuff and they like to come. We want them to wear it. We want them to be proud on the beach or, you know, when they're visiting friends. And this is what the atmosphere can look like. I love when they put on their green paint and, you know, they put on their wigs and stuff. So please don't discourage that. Encourage them to do that, get out, you know, be a part of the community. I've shown these pictures now a couple of times, and I can't believe I haven't taken this out yet, but I did just notice yesterday, this one person seems not to be having as much fun. This is probably not the picture that you'd think I would select. However, she is out and about with the community. And so I do believe that as well. When that student went back, hopefully she told her, oh yeah, we had a great game. But it is, all these pictures are just meant to show, you know, this bigger community that your students can be a part of. Other things that they can do that are a part of the community. If you have, this is specific to athletics, but there's certainly other areas on campus. If you have a student that is really good at like data analytics, send them our way. We hire students to do some of that in the athletics department. I am not the person who should be overseeing, you know, social media and video, et cetera, at my age. Your students are excellent at that kind of stuff, and we hire students to do video and social media. If that's something they might be interested in, send them our way. If they want to be a manager as a part of our teams, send them our way, because then they're a part of this whole thing, and if we're fortunate enough, like we did in 2012 when we won an NCAA Division I national championship in men's lacrosse, they are a part of that. Right? And that's what we want. Every piece is a part of what we're trying to achieve here for our students as a part of Loyola. And if we go to this next page, oh, and actually I should also say, and we can keep this up here, that we also need Iggies. Our mascots, right? We hire people to be Iggy. And so if you have a student that might be interested in that, send them our way as well. And again, I know this doesn't come up from President Sawyer when he's speaking, but I know we're proud of this. We actually had one of our Iggies that had done it for 4 years. When he graduated, he was hired as one of the Ravens mascots. Now, he did get a full-time job as well, so don't panic. Don't panic as they were talking about, you know, kind of discerning what you might want to do with your life. He did have another job as well. But it was just kind of cool to see that, you know, that's where he found comfort and community, et cetera, and was able to continue with that. These are a couple of other, you know, demonstrations, if you will, of, you know, some of the community. Again, I'm all for these kind of outfits. I'm all for everybody being together. That was at a volleyball match where we were raising awareness for some cancer situations, and our students really got behind it, and obviously free t-shirts, so that was helpful. up in the corner, we've spoken just a little bit about traditions. That picture in the upper right-hand corner is actually not here at Loyola. It's at Johns Hopkins. And we have every year something called the Battle of Charles Street. And our students, if we're playing at Hopkins, they trek on down there. It's only a mile away. They trek on down there. And we had more students cheering for Loyola than Hopkins had at their own home game. And clearly when it's here, you know, we have a 6,000 seat stadium and it's rocking for that tradition and they get behind it. So it's kind of awesome to see that you know, as a community, we can get behind those things. So I'm hopeful that, you know, your students want to be a part of anything and everything on campus, and obviously I'm just talking a little bit about athletics. We also are going to start a pep band this year coming up. We've had some students who have expressed some interest in that, so if you have any students, some that are already here on campus, but if you have any students who maybe that's something they're interested in, when you go to the activities fair later today, either at the athletics table or over at the music table, you should be able to get, they'll probably send you over to the music table, but we'd love to have them. It could be a great thing that we're starting. All right, so lastly, as I said, part of my job is obviously to get everybody to recognize our brand. So I just purchased these. I'm starting early. Because I do think it's important now that as people come into the world, I want to encourage them to be a hound, right? So we'll start early. But additionally, I'm just going to ask one question, and I'll hand somebody this hat if they can get the answer right. We currently have 3 former students that play in the NBA that went to Loyola. They are on 2 different teams. So 2 are on one team, 1 is on the other. Can you name those 2 teams? See, and I'm not doing my job, right? Nobody knows what teams they're on. But this is like really important to us. Like we want, yeah, go ahead. You've got the hat already. You're halfway there. Golden State, yes, Golden State Warriors. So we have Pat Spencer, who played lacrosse here. He now plays for the Golden State Warriors. Mind you, he played lacrosse here. Played for 4 years. He did not play basketball. He was the Tewaaraton winner, which is for the best lacrosse player in the country. And then he decided to go to Northwestern for his grad degree and play basketball. He is now playing with Steph Curry in the NBA. And it's awesome, right? Yeah. And that you will get the hat. But the other, did you mind passing that to him? You already have a hat, but you can share. The other team, actually Pat's brother, Cam, plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. He played here. He did play basketball here. He then went on and he did his grad work at UConn and won a national championship there. And one of our other former players, Santi Aldama, was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft, and he plays for the Memphis Grizzlies now. So while you're watching, like that's really important to us, whether it's the highlights on ESPN, not so much just because we want our student athletes to be recognized, but because we think it's really awesome for us as an institution and a community when you might say, oh, did you see Loyola on TV? Did you see Loyola here? So that's what we're striving for, and we certainly welcome all of your students into this community. So go Hounds.
All right, go Hounds. I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I have to work, but going after Donna, I'm ready to run through a brick wall for this place. All right. So again, I'm Jason Parkover, and I get to work with all the student well-being areas. And I want to share first about a few of the offices doing this work, and then just share a couple of balcony-level thoughts about helping our students transition in the healthiest way possible. So to start, I want to share a little bit about the team at the Counseling Center. Counseling Center is right across from Starbucks on the backside of Humanities. A really talented team of licensed clinicians who specialize in college student mental health. They love our students, they love working here, and we're really proud of the work that gets done in the Counseling Center. In fact, Emily shared a little bit ago that students who get involved in activities graduate with higher GPAs. Guess who else graduates with higher GPAs? Students who go to the counseling center, yep, thank you. Higher GPAs and more likely to graduate with honors. And we think that's because these are the students who are willing to engage and reach out and connect with the resources when they're needing a little bit something extra. Free, confidential. We offer brief individual therapy and lots of amazing groups and workshops and a number of other really innovative resources. I want to mention two of them. One is that we do have 24/7 emergency coverage, so if students are in distress for whatever reason, they can reach us anytime. And really proud of the website. We just crunched our numbers for the last year, and the webpage was visited over 70,000 times by students this past year. One of the really wonderful resources on it is the Just for Parents page. So when you have a moment, check that out. There's lots of great info. And we're going to be sending you information through the parent portal that Emily mentioned throughout the summer. But check out the Counseling Center when you get a chance. The next office I want to tell you about is our amazing health services that is led by Julie Sands, and she has a great team down there. Their office is located right on the other side of the bridge where many of our students live. It's in a residential area, which I love. The team there is really super talented, and they're able to manage almost all acute and short-term type of health needs that our students have. And if there's something a little bit more chronic that a specialist is needed in an ongoing way, Julie is very connected in Baltimore. And we're blessed to have amazing healthcare in Baltimore, and she and the team are fantastic with that. Two other services that the health center provides include the allergy clinic, which for students who may be in that process, you can make arrangements to have that transferred here, and also a pharmacy in the health center, which is a great resource as well. We're also really proud of the fact that we partner with Sinai Hospital, their pediatric department. Their physicians come and do some work with us a few times a week, and they also provide our after-hours care. So again, just like the counseling center, the health center provides 24/7 coverage as needed, okay? And finally, disability and accessibility support. Marcia Wiedefeld and her deeply caring and talented team are here to serve students who have any type of needs for accommodations or dealing with some type of either terminal, that was depressing, chronic or, and now I don't even know the word I was looking for, chronic or temporary, I believe that's the word I was looking for, type of disability. And please get connected there if that might be a need. All three of these departments are going to be at the Student Activities Fair at 3:30, so if you have any questions or want to connect a little bit more deeply, please meet with us there. We're also really excited that DAS is getting ready to launch a pre-fall orientation program for students who identify as neurodiverse. It's going to be a wonderful 1 to 2 day program to help students hit the ground running, learn their resources, start to get connected with some peers and so forth. The program is called LENS, and it's something you can learn more about at the Student Activities Fair as well. Okay? Two balcony level thoughts that I wanted to share with you all. The first is to acknowledge this is a big transition, not only for our students, but for us as parents as well. I have this upcoming year, I'll have 3 students in college, so I know what it is like sitting in your seat. Speaking of did you know, do you all know what this is, or do you know what movie this is from? Thank you. Thank you. I was doing a presentation with some first-year students at the end of the spring semester, and I was like, and so, the Breakfast Club, and they're like, what? So I think Deb is going to give you some homework in a little bit, but I'd like to add on to that homework, which is to make sure that your students watch this movie before they arrive, so that when I mention it in my next presentation, they're like, it's the Breakfast Club, of course. Dealing with these transitions is a big deal, and we're really committed not only to helping our students thrive while here at Loyola, but also flourish when they launch out into the world after graduation. And part of that, we believe, is learning to advocate for themselves and learning to reach out and connect when they need to do so. Many of our students have grown up in a world where we as parents have taken care of a lot of their needs, and they have their phones and they're able to connect digitally, but that doesn't always get the job done. And it sometimes can leave our students a little bit anxious or unsure of how to advocate for themselves. So for example, I've talked with a number of students who, in recent years, who when I've talked about, hey, can you call and make an appointment for yourself or blah, 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 they're anxious about doing that, about picking up the phone and calling, and I see lots of heads nodding, so you've been there with me. We as parents, when our kids are in high school, we generally don't hesitate to message a teacher if we learn from our student, hey, I'm struggling in this class, I don't know what's going wrong. We might message them saying, hey, I'm reaching out on behalf of Eli. What does he need to do to get back on track? And that's fine, and that's maybe more developmentally appropriate when they're younger. We want them to learn how to do that for themselves while they're here, so that when they need to make a doctor's appointment, when they need to take their car in to have it, tinkered with, whatever it may be, that they feel good and confident and are able to do those things. So our ask of you is, when you become aware that they're needing to connect with someone, if your first step could be talk with them about how they can reach out. Right? If they're struggling in one of their classes, hey, when is your professor's office hours, right? Our faculty love meeting with students one-on-one in those office hours. One of the things I love about this place, deeply caring folks that I get to work with. If they're struggling in the res halls with some type of, they need some adjustment of their air conditioning or something like that, instead of you calling Res Life, talk to them about, hey, reach out to your RA. Do you remember who your RA is? Talk to them and see if they can take care of you, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't want the message to sound like, don't contact us. We're here. We want to hear from you. But the first step is help them get connected and you be their backup. Does that make sense? It's a really important life skill that we want them to master while they're here. Secondly is the idea of proactivity. I have, my oldest has a chronic health condition. When she went off to college, we made sure to talk with the physician and have a plan in place to know how we were going to handle that. We want to encourage you all to do that, not only for medical needs, medication needs, but also with psychological needs. If you have a student who benefits from being in counseling and uses that as a resource, now is not the time to say, hey, let's pause and see how you do without. This transition is a big one. We need additional support during transitions, not less. If your student has used accommodations and has found them really helpful in high school, they may be feeling, and I hear this a fair amount, I want to give college a try and see how it goes without accommodations. I admire that, and that's fine. Give it a whirl, see how it goes. But also connect with DAS ahead of time to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I had this 504 in high school. This is how it was useful, how it wasn't. Want you to be aware of me. When do I know I need to reach out to you if I'm struggling? Let's make sure together that we're providing the scaffolding for this transition in a proactive way so they really know what their resources are ahead of time. Does that make sense as well? Okay, excellent. One more thought about well-being. Our well-being is really important as well. So Sean and Ryan and I here would like to let you know that we're all going to be hitting the gym today at the end of the day. I need to catch up to you guys a little bit. So we want you to take care of yourselves as well. If there's anything that we can do to help support you as you're helping your kids over the next 4 years, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, okay? All right, thanks. Thanks for playing along.
Good afternoon, everyone. In my career in student development and working in higher ed, my favorite position has been as the Dean of Students. And that's because I get the opportunity to celebrate with students when they're having amazing times, some of the best times. But I also have the great responsibility of being able to walk with them through some of their most vulnerable times. And sometimes that's when our students need us the most. And so the great thing about Loyola is that there's a ton of help all around. And I want to spend a couple moments just talking about some of our offices and resources and the folks behind the work that are here to support your students. And so you've heard a lot today about Messina and the Evergreens. Like the Evergreens, they're peer leadership in action. These are students who are here to provide guidance and support, as you've heard. They're sharing real talk to your students because they've been there. They're there to help your students to get their footing, to find their friends, to make those connections. And I like to say that the Evergreens are like a GPS system. They're there to help with guidance, some rerouting sometimes, and then just letting them know you've got this. Then we also have additional support and frontline support in residence life and housing. So we have our resident assistants. So these are peer leaders that live in the halls, that are organizing community building. They're making sure that your student actually has some fun. They're helping to mediate roommate conflicts with grace and making sure there's lots of snack diplomacy, and making sure that their most essential needs are met, which includes making sure they have enough toilet paper. There's also full-time area coordinators that live in the buildings as well, who are there. They hold office hours, they do check-ins and support and follow-up for students, and then more importantly, they participate in our on-call and crisis response system to make sure that there's immediate response and support for your students. Because we know that residential education is far more than just the student learning how to use their laundry card. Then we have our student support, student athlete support services. This is about balance and motion. This office, they offer specialized academic advising. They work with our athletics to make sure that there's advocacy for the student athlete needs and helping them to navigate their eligibility, class schedules, and the performance pressure that comes with being a student athlete, because we want them to keep both their GPA and their game strong. Then there is student support and wellness promotion. If you don't hear anything else that I've said this afternoon, I want you to remember about this mechanism that Loyola has in place to support your students. It's called Care Team. It is a group of cross-campus individuals who come together on a weekly basis to strategize and look at referrals from students that might need additional support or help. The great thing about it is that anyone can submit a report. So faculty members, administrators, fellow students, and yes, also you parents. It's an opportunity for you to help us as we're looking to support your students in times of crisis. And I do want to mention that it's always important to let us know if there's a situation that's at a 2 before it gets to the 7. We also have case managers who can work one-on-one with your students to build success plans, to coordinate resources with all the other offices that we have been talked about today. And then sometimes we're super excited and we want everything to go well for your student, but sometimes there may be a hiccup along that road where the student needs to take a pause and maybe take a step back and maybe even consider a leave of absence or medical leave of absence. And our office helps the student and their families to navigate how to go through that process, and then hopefully be able to return and complete their degree at Loyola. Then there is our Student Integrity and Restorative Justice Practices Office. Sometimes when you hear about student conduct, I think student conduct gets a bad rap because folks often think we're talking about just punishment. But here at Loyola, we take a different approach. Our philosophy is about restorative justice meeting student development. We lead with a model that I like to call a careability. So it's focused on accountability, but also caring for the whole person, that cura personalis. We want our students to take responsibility without shame where possible. So when your student has a misstep, we help guide them to reflect on their actions, to understand their impact, and repair the harm in meaningful ways. We're not just asking your student, what rule was broken? It's about what can be learned from this situation and how can you reconcile with those that have been impacted by your behavior. At Loyola, we have a zero tolerance policy for hate, harassment, discrimination, any behavior that undermines another person's dignity, because we know how folks show up in this community is very important. Additionally, we're not here to teach the students what to think, but we're here to help them figure out a process for navigating how to make ethical decisions, how to navigate with empathy, and how to coexist with people that may not be like them. We know that integrity and justice, they're not just ideals, but they're the foundation of how we make our community work. So then becomes the most important question. How can you support your student from a distance? And I've coupled the comments in what I like to call the 3 C's. So we're gonna start with communication. It begins with the real conversation. And that real conversation that most students are talking about has to do with roommates. We're encouraging you to start having the conversation with your student about boundaries and values. What's important to them? What are their expectations around space, noise, privacy, their sleep and their study routines, their food habits, and what's shareable? So I'm going to tell this story. It's called the pretzel bite parable. It's a tale of folly that happens in a first-year residence hall. So every year, we have students that are super excited to live together. They've been talking about all the things that they're going to share, which includes TVs, clothes, leftovers, and pretzel bites. And inevitably, at some point, someone eats someone else's pretzel bites without permission. And depending on the conversation that they've had, that minor annoyance, it can spiral into passive-aggressive comments, group text drama, and inevitably, some sort of public meltdown that plays out on Instagram. And for us, that results in room changes and lots of folks having to get involved when all they had to do was have a conversation. So we encourage you to have your students, once they get that information, outreach to their roommates and start talking about not just what they're bringing, not just about how many refrigerators and microwaves, but how are we going to navigate the boundaries in our room? What type of experience do we want? What type of atmosphere do we want in our room? And so that's the moral of the story. Talk now, not TikTok later. Communication with parents, it will change for you too, right? So I'm telling you, don't be alarmed by delayed responses. They're adjusting too. And sometimes that radio silence, it just means that they're becoming busy with all the things that are happening in their college experience. I know it all too well. So my youngest just graduated from college. And I remember when she was going to college, even knowing all the things that I know from working on a college campus, there was a time where I didn't hear from her from a couple of days. And I completely spiraled. I called her time after time after time and didn't hear back from her. And then a couple days later, she got back to me, cool, calm, and collected. And she's like, Mom, what's wrong? I'm just living life on my college campus. And I was like, I just need to know, do you need anything? And she's like, no, Mom, I don't need anything right now. But I'm glad that you called. And it let me know something that was very important for me to tell you. Our students will always still need us. They'll just need us in a different way, and that's okay. So then this is the time when we talk about FERPA. There's this federal regulation that says when your student comes on our campus as a college student, their records belong to them. And that can be scary, because you've gone from having access to all the information to now having to have a conversation with your student about those records. The shift can feel hard, but just know it's a sign of their growing independence. But we are here to support you all through that. And so making sure you have a conversation with your student about how you're going to navigate that information is really important too. Because we know that that is what will help them to transition in their journey. But also, I do want to say, if there is a health or safety concern, you will hear from us. Like we've been saying all afternoon, you all are a partner. So we want to make sure that you're informed about things that may negatively impact your student as much as we are able. Then there's the community, me to we. So it's their time, but they're not alone. I tell students all the time, yes, this experience is about you, but it's not just about you. So you really have to think about your behaviors and how they're impacting other people, because you're not on an island somewhere. You're connected to other people who are living this experience in our community with you. Asking, how do your actions impact others? Are you contributing to our community in a positive way? Because the community, it's not handed to our students. They build it together, and we're asking all of you to help your students to prepare for that. And I promise, we will remind them lovingly that leaving dirty dishes in the lounge is not a community building exercise. And then finally, I want to end talking about civility. It's more than just about being polite. It's about being principled. We're asking your students to start to navigate how they're going to listen to others, how they're going to learn and live alongside other people with respect, even when it's hard. And there are some times when it's really hard. Civility on our campus is about showing up for others and having empathy and intention. We're asking your students to choose compassion over ego. As we said, we have a zero tolerance policy for anything that negatively impacts the dignity of others. Unkindness is not a learning outcome we support, and we hold all of our students accountable. And the final thing about civility, it begins on move-in day. Move-in day is organized chaos. There's people everywhere, slow elevators, full parking lots, and at least one item that you didn't remember to bring when you pull up. But underneath all the frenzy, just know that our team is committed to doing everything that we do that day and beyond with love, care, and intention. And so we're asking you to also bring love, care, and intention. Bring some laughter, bring some patience, and maybe one less microwave. We will handle the rest, including cheering for your student at the end of this when they walk across the stage as a Loyola graduate. We're excited to embark on this encounter with you, and we want you to know that while we're here for your student, we are not just here for your student. We're here for you too, because you're our parents and you're our partners from a distance. Thank you.
So thank you to our panelists. Just by show of hands, how many of your students have their own room at home? Yeah, most of you. How about your own bathroom? Yeah. Yep. I don't know whose idea it was to build residence halls where they are all living in 12 by 12 rooms with one or two other people and then share a bathroom with 30 of their closest friends. No conflict there, right? So yeah, having those conversations about expectations, reasonable expectations about what a roommate is and is not, and they don't necessarily have to be your best friend, right? So I want to talk about some summer homework. Your students got homework with the summer reading, and I'm going to ask you all to do some summer homework by having conversations with your student. As you've probably heard the theme throughout this morning, or this afternoon rather, you know, we really want to partner with you. And we know from experience that when you all have these conversations with your students over the summer, their transition goes much more smooth and much more successfully. So I'm asking you to have 5 conversations. You don't have to have them all by the time you reach 95 or 83, okay? As one dad told me, oh, got it covered, all done. Maybe take one at a time over the course of the next, 8 to 10 weeks before they come to college. And again, we know that this will help your student transition. So the first one is around academic expectations. Now, when I say academic expectations, I don't necessarily mean GPA, what to major in, what classes to take, right? GPA is important, don't get me wrong. But I want you to have a different kind of conversation with your student. I want you to ask them about what they're learning, how what they're gaining in their core courses are informing their passions, what their classes, how they can relate their classes to what's happening in the world, right? Because when you ask those deeper questions, the GPA will come, right? They'll find the right major. I don't know about you, but with my kids, how was school today? Fine. What you learned today? Nothing. right? So we got to find other ways to ask the questions of our students to really understand what their academic engagement is all about. Now I'm going to give your students 3 weeks, but on week 3, I want you to ask them the names of all of their faculty. If they do not know them, that's a problem. Probably not going to class, right? But talking with them about where they're sitting in class. There's research that says that students who sit in the first 2 rows, more likely to get A's and B's. Those that sit in the back, most likely don't do well, right? Now, most people will say, I asked them this morning, how many of you are sure of what you want to be in the world, right? About half the room stood up, saying they know what career they want. They won't be in those careers, right? They'll change their minds 1,000 times, and that's okay. Because the average person changes their major 5 times. And quite frankly, it doesn't really matter what they major in. The number 1 major for lawyers is philosophy, not political science or history, right? The number 1 major for medical school used to be English, right? Our business partners, the ones that we work with to get students internships, externships, shadowing opportunities, they want liberal arts students because they can think. They can make critical examinations of processes and policies. And they're preparing for jobs that don't even exist yet. God only knows what our world economy is going to look like next month, never mind in 10, 20 years, right? So the liberal arts core that they're gaining here is crucial for their long-term success. And we have outcomes that show that. So you think you can do that, you can have that. Trust me, if you have this conversation laying the groundwork now, by the time they come home at Thanksgiving, they'll be a much more interesting person, right? And they'll give you something better than, I learned nothing, right? The next is freedom. So, in high school, they spend about 7 to 8 hours a day at school, 6 to 8 hours a day at school, depending on their after-school activities. In college, on average, they spend 2 to 3 hours in class. That's a lot of time after class that they have to figure out on their own. And we know, again, you've heard this, we've probably hit you over the head with it, that the more involved student does better academically. Our student athletes who have very busy schedules have some of the highest GPAs on campus. And that's not by accident, right? It's because their day is scheduled, they have a pattern, they have routines, right? It used to be given the advice, I'm glad, even since I've been at Loyola, this is my 3rd year, since I've been doing this presentation, this advice has decreased significantly over the past 3 years. We were told when we were going to school, don't do anything first semester freshman year, just study. Yeah, right, right? None of us did that. And the students who do that aren't happy. And therefore, when you're not finding joy in the work, you're not doing the work, right? So helping them understand how to use that time, how to go to the fitness and aquatic center, getting involved in things, that will help them succeed, get a job, all of the things. So related to that, if they call you and say, Loyola's making me pay $300 to do X, Y, or Z, they're lying. It's pretty much all covered in your tuition, room, and board, right? And I would investigate, because they're probably spending money on something that neither you nor I would condone, right? Which we'll talk about that in a minute. But really thinking about what the financial investment is of your student in their own education. Because there's also research that shows that students who have quote unquote skin in the game in their own education tend to do better. So what that skin in the game looks like is going to be different for every student and for every family. Whether that's your expectations that they buy their own books with their summer job money, or that summer job money is supposed to last them the entire year, maybe a little Christmas, for all their spending money, right? Whether that's taking out a student loan, which helps them build credit and appreciates rather than depreciates, like their cell phone rental charges, right? Like things like that really help them understand the value of their education and how they contribute financially to it. Think through a bit with them about budgeting, what that looks like. We'll do some financial literacy with them, but helping them understand how their dollar has to last for however long for you and for your family. Does that make sense? Calculate with them how much it costs to miss a class. Last time I checked, assuming no scholarship, no loans, no nothing, assuming just tuition, room, and board, it was about $685. Would your student just throw that away? Probably not, right? So why miss class? It's really, you have to work really, really hard to fail in college because showing up is 90% of the game, right? If you show up to class, you do the work, you're going to pass and you're going to do just fine. So does that make sense, the financial part? Yeah. So what you and I don't condone, right, is some of the values clarification pieces that I really implore you to have the conversation with your students this summer, because this could be career ending, not to mention college ending for some of our students. The sex, drugs, and alcohol talk, right? I know you're thinking, oh, I had that in middle school. Do I really have to have it again? Yes, please. It's not just a Loyola issue, it's a national epidemic. 1 in 4 students are sexually assaulted in college. Okay. We'll help you with this conversation. We will have students do several modules this summer on sexual assault, what consent means, on alcohol and drugs. The drug of choice for college students these days is marijuana. I know it's legalized in most states, including Maryland. It is not legal at Loyola. And you can have your opinions politically about what that means, but the evidence on what marijuana does to the brain is indisputable, right? It gets in the way. It gets in the way of those dreams. But having those conversations is super important. So we'll give them some online modules that they'll have to complete over the summer. I encourage you to use that as a launching point to have conversations with your student about these issues, okay? And they have to do it, because they can't move in unless they do. And you all do not want to be sitting in the fitness and aquatics parking lot for 4 hours watching them complete their modules. And if they say, oh, I didn't know about it, they're lying, because they get about 20 reminders, probably as many reminders as you get about the health forms, right? We even call every student in early August who don't complete the module. So they knew about it, right? But please have those conversations. Pull out the old books. There's tons of movies about college culture, dating culture, TV shows, et cetera. If that's the launching pad you need to have this conversation around consent, please do it. That makes sense? Yeah, because it's devastating for the student who's been harmed, for the student who's done the harm, for both set of families, and we're heartbroken. In my 30 years in student affairs, I have expelled 6 students. And it's heartbreaking. I know every one of their names. I know every one of their situations. And I know their families well. I don't want to have to call any of you to have that conversation. And inevitably, one of you will call and say, not my kid. And I have to say, nope, I'm sorry, it is your kid. Right? Which my kids have no hope, because I always just assume it was them. So there's that. So having those values clarification conversations, you'll set them up much better, okay? Make sense? Can you do it? I had a dad at not the session this year, last year, say, I don't even know how to start. I was like, I don't care how you do it, just get it done. That's your most important assignment this summer. And then last but not least, saying goodbye. This is really challenging on opening day. So when you move in August 28th, we're in an urban environment. There's never enough parking for anybody. There's not enough stuff going on, lots of emotions going on. U-Hauls will show up. If you bring one, you've brought too much stuff. Right? Like, everyone's trying to meet the roommates. Dads typically are trying to set up the technology. The moms are making beds. Like, it all happens, right? And you have to leave at 3 o'clock, right? Because their program starts. There are no parent programming for fall arrival. The parents who watch the students do team building in the quad and videotaping it are really embarrassing their students, okay? So we really need you to pick up and leave. True stories. I don't make this stuff up, right? You're laughing, but they're all true. So saying goodbye ahead of time makes all the difference for your student, right? Because there's too much emotion the day of. So I'm going to share with you what my family did many, many years ago, that I still tell this story, and it still has an impact on me, and then also my sister, which we did the same for her. So if you can't tell from the Boston accent, I've been talking all day, it's really coming out. I grew up in Boston. Every Friday night, my family went to a pizza joint for dinner. That was like our family tradition. So a week before college, we went off and did that. So we are Red Sox fans. Sorry, my New York friends. And if they were on TV, we'd go home and watch it on TV, or, when Fenway was affordable, we'd go to the game. Well, right before college, we ended up going to Fenway. They happened to be playing the New York Yankees. We were sitting behind the third baseline. The tickets were like $3 back then, so just know that. Now they're like $300. But anyway, and we won. The Red Sox won. It was a great day. And that's how we launched into my transition from high school to college. My parents still talk about it. We did the same thing for my sister. She still talks about it. I'm still telling this story to all of you. So however you do it as a family, include the siblings, include the pets, include who lives in your household, to memorialize this moment, right? To really make special this launching of your student from childhood to adulthood. And I tell you, they will never forget it, and you won't regret it. So we're so grateful, again, that you are all here. We really look forward to getting to know your students well. We treat them like our own. We all are in this business because we want to see students thrive and be successful, find their passions, and make a difference in this world, because their Jesuit education will serve them for a lifetime. So thank you. So now you are off to the chapel to meet your student who's probably already texting you to say, where are you, for your family blessing. And then downstairs in McGuire at 3:30 for the fair.